A weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brothers in Tech here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. Today, I am your host, Brian Jackson, one of the Brothers in Tech. We could say today's either a very sad day for you or a day that you've been waiting for, in that I am the only brother here today. Alan is no longer with us. He's alive, but he's not able to join us today, and so we're gonna try to carry on without him. And I'm sure that either way, we will either bomb notoriously, and he'll realize that he's needed, or this will be the best show we've ever had, and I'll be able to rub that in his face from here on. So either way, this could be a really good thing. So welcome, and thanks for spending some time here with me. For those who this is your first time either viewing or listening to the podcast, this is a show. Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast where we talk about home technology. So technology that you would potentially purchase for your home, want to use for your home, make your home more efficient. We like to talk about the things that tend to work and tend not to work, so that hopefully you can make some better decisions in your tech life. So we're not going to talk about enterprise technology. We're not talking about corporate technology. This is the technology that you use in your home, and we'll hopefully be able to give you some helpful information so that you don't have to go and bother anyone else to try to fix your tech or to make those decisions. Or if you're the one that people are coming to ask those questions, maybe we'll give you a little bit more ammunition to work with. So we're glad to have you here. Today, we're going to be talking about although it's not technically a technology itself, the service that we're going to be kind of discussing, or the brand of services, really kind of revolves around the idea that technology is being used in order to make one part of your life potentially more efficient. So we're going to be talking about home delivery services for meals. So meal delivery services where you guys have, I'm sure, seen them. Many of you use them, but they are everywhere. Okay, it's become an incredibly popular thing where you can go and select meals. They deliver that either the meal itself, or they deliver the ingredients for the meal, and you don't have to go shopping. So I can tell you from my perspective, this has been a really, really good thing. And even though there seems to be so many of these services out right now, I think we're kind of in a good spot because the competition allows you to get a lot of variety in what you use, and make sure that you have a service that might be right for you. So today's going to be all about what are these services, what do they do, is it something that's worthwhile for you, and if you do, what are some tips in order to get the most out of them. So let's go ahead and get rolling here. And so first of all, let's talk about what these services intend to do. So there's a variety of them. And as I mentioned, it probably started, I don't know, maybe a decade ago, where some of the first services, I think you probably have heard of Blue Apron. Blue Apron was one of the early services where they came out and said, listen, we want to deliver you your meals each week, give you a menu card, allow you to fix these meals so that you don't have to go shopping. So instead of you going and wanting to do a creative meal where you have to go and buy small bits of spices, or maybe way too much of a product for what you actually need, they'll deliver exactly what it is that you need. You prepare it and use their instructions to be able to do so. So Blue Apron's been around for a while. And then it kind of spun off into many others. Obviously, there was nothing proprietary about what they were doing, so a lot of other services have jumped in. Right, I have a list here of just my initial 5 minutes of looking through what those names are, but some that you probably have heard of. So Blue Apron, HelloFresh, Gobble, Freshly, Home Chef, Sunbasket, Green Chef, Hungryroot, EveryPlate, Purple Carrot, Fresh and Easy, Marley Spoon, ButcherBox. Right, these are all versions of kind of the same idea. Now they all have some uniqueness to them, or at least they're attempting to have some uniqueness to them. Whether that's the meals that they deliver, or the whether or not the meal is prepared already, or how much preparation you have to do, price. Selection, right? They all try to make themselves a little bit unique, but in the grand scheme of things, they're all kind of in the same niche. And so I thought what I would do is talk to you a little bit about my experience with some of these services, because I have used a few of them. And then actually show you, I'm not going to fix anything, but I will show you a menu card, what it looks like, how to select the meals, what your options are. We'll use one of those services as an example today, the one that I happen to currently be using. But then we'll talk a little bit about kind of, are there some tips of how to make the most of these services? If you're going to use it, how do we make sure that you're getting the most out of it? All right. So let's go ahead and kind of jump in here. So in terms of the purpose of these, we've already mentioned they're delivering you so that you don't have to go and shop. And they also have recipes that are involved with this, so that you don't have to try to make all the decisions as to what you want to eat. So why is this a good thing? Right? Well, potentially it saves you time in shopping. I don't know if you're anything like me. I despise shopping. I don't mind cooking. I actually enjoy cooking, but I don't like shopping. And so going and, suggesting that you want to do a creative meal oftentimes will involve you having to go and try to find those ingredients. Rarely can you get the ingredients in the small amounts that you're going to need them, especially if you're someone like me, where there's only 2 people in the household. Cooking for 2 or cooking for 1 can be an incredible challenge, and not very cost effective unless you're going to make that meal several times, because you're buying one ingredient, maybe a spice. You have to buy the entire bottle of the spice, and you're only going to be using a small bit of it. Okay, these will only give you what it is that you need in order to cook that particular meal. So what I thought I would do, let's go ahead and jump in and show you an example of one of these. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to change my strategy here. I'm actually going to show you a couple of websites, because I did pull up a few of these and wanted to kind of demonstrate how you might go about signing up for them, or what some of them might look like from the first step. So we mentioned earlier Blue Apron, and Blue Apron's one that I've used in the past. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, my wife and I have used meal services now for, I'm going to guess that it's maybe around 4 years. We've had them going continuously. We've loved this. It's sort of perfect for us, because we enjoy cooking, but we don't enjoy shopping, and we don't necessarily like to have a lot of ingredients sitting around. So Blue Apron was the first one that we used, and probably used it for a couple of years. I just pulled up the website here, as you can see, and one thing about there being so many services now is they're all having to run these deals. You can see what Blue Apron's doing. They're giving you $110 off plus a $100 gift card for you to jump in and try it out. And so that's pretty appealing, right? That's, if you haven't used it before and you're thinking of using it, now might be a good time to do so. But I'm going to kind of click that off and just show you, this is the homepage. So if you were to go and sign up, most likely the process is going to be create an account, right? You will have to put a payment option in, even if they're giving you free meals or free discounts on things. You're going to have to give them payment information, because basically you are signing up for a service, all right? And this is going to come to one of my tips in just a little bit, but you give them your information, you set up, you then most likely are going to have to, this may differ a little bit across the services, tell them what kind of meals that you like. It'll probably provide you a number of different things. Say, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? Are you a meat eater? Are you a vegetarian? Are there certain meats that you won't eat? So it kind of gets an idea of what it thinks you might like, so it can make some suggestions. And then you're going to need to pick, well, when do I want these deliveries to happen? Okay, most of these services, when I start giving you some ideas a minute of price, most of them, their prices tend to be based off of 2 meals or 2 people, 3 meals a week. Okay, that's kind of their standard, right? So if you go in and say, listen, what's the standard? I've got 2 people here. We're going to get meals for 2, and we're going to get 3 of them a week, so 6 meals a week. And but it can go up from there, right? We've gone to as many as, I think, 5 or 6 meals a week if we felt like, we needed to fill up every evening, or maybe some lunches. And you can also get it for more people. So if you have a family of 4, or some of them I've seen even go up to 5 and 6. But so you have those options, but usually there's the standard of, we give you a box with 3 meals for a week, and each meal serves 2 people. So think about that when you're comparing some of these services about the prices. Like, how much am I paying per meal, and is it worth it? Right? Is it make sense with the money I might be saving on ingredients and all of that? So once you set up your plan, so they say, hey, I want 3 meals a week, or I want 4 meals a week, and I want it for 2 people or 4 people. Then you'll go in and you'll probably have to set up, well, what day of the week do I want the box delivered? Because the way these systems work is they're going to send you a box, and the box is going to include your ingredients. It's going to include your menu cards, right? Most of them, some of them may be moving towards digital to try to save money, but most of them, they have a menu card that'll tell you how to fix it. And then you'll have, depending on the service, they'll be boxed probably on ice, dropped off at your doorstep, and you get your meals, right? So you'll need to choose, when do I want my delivery? They usually give you options. Is it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? You choose the day, and then that continues to happen. Now, once that occurs, as I said, most of them, they're going to give you a free box. If you've never used that service before, almost all of them have some sort of discount initially. Blue Apron used to be, once you sign up, you got your first box for free. So that would be, three nights of meals for 2 people. So 6 total meals. Same thing happens, I think, with HelloFresh and some of these others. There's a few of them that might give you, here, your first 3 weeks are going to be highly discounted a certain amount. So once you sign up, you get your first box, you fix it, you determine whether or not you like it. Most of them will have you rate whether or not you like the meals, and you go back in and you select those meals. I kind of skipped one important part, which was to select those meals. As I said, you're telling them, here's what I like. So it's going to try to make prediction as to what it thinks you're going to like. But obviously their prediction capability gets better after you start selecting from their options. Now, depending on the service, so Blue Apron is one of these that when you go in, let's see, I'm going to click on the menu here. You can just see some examples of the menus that they have. So you can see some of the things that they have to offer for this particular week. Coming up next week, scallops and creamy romesco pasta, right? Or sandwiches. You can see that they have a number of different things that you could be choosing from. Right. And so this is one of the things that I highly advise if you're thinking of a service. Go in and take a look at their menus. Go in and take a look at what's next week's menu before you sign up. Okay. All of them should be able to do this and say, here's what's on next week's menu, because you may find that there's a fairly substantial difference across these services. Blue Apron, I always found, was really good, but they were also somewhat exotic. That's one of the reasons my wife and I enjoyed them, because we would try things that we normally would not get to try or we would not make. So there might be some meals that are a little bit more, international cuisine that we'd like to try, and we're a little bit more adventurous with that and don't mind doing that, even if it's something we end up not liking. The fact that we can make one of those meals, try it, and all we've had to purchase is that particular meal, then that's helpful for us. But if you're in a family and you have children, this may not be the service for you. And I've actually heard from a number of friends of ours that have children, and especially young children. They'll say, this just didn't make sense, right? Because my kids won't eat this, or my kids, if it's not chicken nuggets, they're not eating it, or if it's something exotic, they're certainly not going to try it. So be aware that Blue Apron may not be the best thing for young children, or it may not be if you're someone who, your spouse or you happens to be a little bit picky with your food and, doesn't necessarily like to try a lot of new things. This may not be the right service for you, right? There you go, given their offer again. Let me go over and jump to another one. So this one, Freshly, I just picked a couple of random ones here. Freshly, very similar, where you're going to go in and you've got the different plans and that you can choose from. You've got your menus that they've got. So you can see here, the difference with this one is that this is one I think that is going to be, get my notes here. Freshly, yeah. So Freshly is one that's a little different in that these are fully cooked meals. So what you're asking for is give me the meals so that I don't have to cook at all, right? So if you're someone who really doesn't like cooking and you don't like shopping, this may be a great option for you. Over here, Gobble is another one that's somewhat new, and this is very similar to what I was talking about earlier. They'll give you 6 meals for $36, so that's obviously a lot cheaper than what they would normally do. So I've mentioned, price a few times, and I do think price is one of the things that you will want to take a look at. However, I don't see there being a ton of difference in price across these services. Now, you may argue and say, a dollar here or a dollar or two here on each meal makes a difference, and it surely does. But I think when you start looking at the quality of the meals, you're all going to be in a very kind of similar range, right? Most of these you should be able to get per meal per person somewhere in the $5 to $10 range. Okay, so let's say it's 3 meals a week for 2 people. Okay, you should probably be expecting to pay, maybe to $60 to $70 when you start building in shipping fees. You can probably get them as inexpensive as maybe, $50 to $60 a week. But I would probably start looking or planning on with shipping and some of the things that are involved with that around $10. That's what my wife and I have always looked at. We said it's going to be $10 a person per meal. And I think that is fairly reasonable for the food that we get. All right. So take a look at some of the prices, see if they're doing promotions, and then decide whether or not that's something that works for you. Take a look at their menu, decide if that's the kind of food that you like, because they all do have their own little niche. If you're someone that has children, make sure that you're taking that into account. Do you actually want to be cooking twice, maybe one for you and your spouse, and then something different for the children? Maybe that's perfect. And if so, you can just get the meals for 2. Or you might need to look at a service that's really geared more to children, to where the family meal of 4 or more is going to be useful. So that's kind of a general overview of how you get started in these and how you might look at some of these different services. Let me take you to a different plan. So HelloFresh, as I mentioned before, that's the one that my wife and I are currently using. As I said, we've used a number of different services. We used Blue Apron initially. I think we've done Marley Spoon. I think we did Freshly once. But for the last probably, year and a half, we have been with HelloFresh. And so although I'm going to show you HelloFresh and why we use it, I am by no means trying to promote them. I just want to give you some specifics to know what you're going to see. So HelloFresh, just like several of the others, as I mentioned, they'll deliver a box, and in that box is going to be your ingredients, and it's also going to be the menu card. And the menu card is going to provide you with the instructions of how to go about cooking this. So I picked one of our menu cards that we recently just fixed this meal, spicy Peruvian chicken. So you can see that this is the front of the card. Blue Apron was similar. I think they've changed their cards just a little bit to make them a little bit smaller. This is actually a kind of a full piece of paper, 8.5 by 11 size. So you can see on the front, it's telling you, here are the ingredients that are going with this meal. Okay, these are the things that they're sending you. Right? It tells you the calories, which is kind of nice. My wife and I tend to have this thing where if we have, 4 or 5 of these cards or these meals to fix, depending on if we've exercised that day or not, we have to decide which one of those we're willing to do, because some of the calorie counts are pretty high. You can see this one's not bad, 620 for this full meal, but some of them get up into the thousands if they are or 1,000 calories. So just be aware of that, and maybe take a look at some of those menus based on the service to know what kind of health your health plans you're on. So you can see that it tells you a little bit about it. It's got a picture of it, what it technically should look like. Then on the back, okay, this is the back side of that same card, you'll see on the left, it's giving you some specifics about like the spices that it's using. It's telling you a little bit about the ways in which you can kind of improve or help your process. You'll see here it's talking about how to pickle a jalapeno and how to make that a little bit more efficient. It also tells you what things you're going to need. All right, so this is something that I think is pretty helpful to know as well. Is if you're in one of these services, and we'll talk in a little bit about how you choose those menu items for the future. I think always go and look and try to figure out what am I going to need in order to cook this? Because there's going to be some meals that are going to require the oven, some meals that require a pan, some meals that require a pot, some others that will require multiple bowls because you're making sauces and all of that at the same time. I say that because, my wife and I will actually, it's the summer right now, and we're doing a lot of camping. So we're actually taking several of these meals camping, but if you take one camping where you need a lot of things, right, that's really not very efficient. So we tend to look at which one of them is only going to require a pan, for example, or which one of these doesn't require a ton of cutting so that we don't need a huge cutting board. So just kind of, you get a heads up as to how difficult it's going to be. You've also got a section down here as to what you need to contribute. And so even though I said earlier, most of these meal plans are going to be everything that you need in order to cook, some of them do. Some of them will give you all the spices, as in salt, pepper, and oil and everything with it. Most of them, however, and especially the ones that I've talked about recently here, the HelloFresh as well as Blue Apron, they'll kind of expect you to have some of the basics. So the basics usually are olive oil. Okay, olive oil seems to be something that is in almost every meal. Oftentimes, though, they may need butter. You may need to bring, or you will need to bring salt and pepper to the table as well. Right. So those are some, and sugar. I think that's the other one that they tend to assume and don't send you unless there's a huge amount of it needed. So they kind of expect you to have those things. So for us, in terms of our cooking ingredients that we have in our house, given that most of ours are coming from these meals, we're always kind of loading up on salt and pepper, olive oil, and we make sure we have sugar. So just so that we don't get stuck on any of these meals not being able to prepare. Right. So as you can see, it kind of walks you through your steps. If you prefer digital, okay, we have also brought them up on, an iPad, put them to the side so that we can slide through. But typically we'll both be cooking. We'll put this, kind of prop this up, and one will kind of move ahead to step 2 while one of us is doing the chopping, that sort of thing. So that's how it works. And it's, like I said, it's pretty helpful. When they give you the estimates at the front, you'll see here the prep 10 minutes, the cooking 30 minutes. I would say early on, those are fairly ambitious in terms of their times. But as you get more comfortable with some of the way in which the things are prepared, if you stay with the same service for a while, the way they prepare things, for example, here's green onions, please, thinly slice the green onions and separate the green from the white parts of the onion. That's almost a standard with something like HelloFresh or Blue Apron. So once you get used to those things, it does turn out to be fairly accurate in terms of the timing. All right. So let me show you one more thing for those who are listening. I'll try to talk you through this, and for those who are watching the video here, you'll be able to see. But I'm going to pull up the app. Okay, and so the reason that this is what we consider one of our technologies is because it all is app based, so it's an app service that you're using. So this is my example here or this is my actual account for HelloFresh. As you can see, you're looking at my phone. And when I go into the HelloFresh app, okay, which is very similar to Blue Apron, right? You'd find something similar with a little bit of some minor differences, right? This is another thing that I think is probably an important piece to the equation, because you're going to be using this. If you're like me, I really need to have a good user interface, one that I know that I can navigate easily and quickly make my decisions and not have to kind of spend a lot of time with it. So as you can see here, this is showing you, looks like I clicked on one of the meals. All right, so this is showing you what I have coming up. So this is saying, hey, this week, these are the different meals that you chose. And you can see that I chose 4 meals for this week. It's got a track button, which means that you can't make any changes to this. So this one's already on its way out. But all the others down below, so the next one, you can click on the select, right? This is what I wanted to show you, is that this is how some of these services will work, is they'll give you lots of options. You'll see that I'm going to scroll here, this HelloFresh. These are all the options I had for the next set of meals, right? There's a lot of them there, probably 20 some, maybe even 30. And all of them, I'm going to slide back up here, right? All of them have the option for me of saying, okay, do you want that or not? And you can see the ones that have the green already highlighted means that I've selected those. And those are the ones that are going to be in my box unless I change it. And if I want to add an extra meal, I can scroll down and say, oh, add something else. And then it's going to change, obviously, the total price for that week, right? So if I just said I wanted to add this meatball meal and say I want to add an extra meal, you'll see there at the top that it's starts to change, right? Given that they have kind of an economy of scale. They're only giving you one box, right? And if they can jam more meals into that box, it's some efficiency for you. So oftentimes, if you get more meals, there'll be less per meal. So as you can see, it changed from $10 per meal to $9 a meal if I add a 5th one, right? So I'm going to cancel that, though, just so I don't make any changes. And you'll see at the top, it's actually giving me ability to look at meals. What is that? 4 or 5 weeks out, which is really helpful as well, because what you don't want is you don't want to get stuck being sent meals that you didn't choose simply because you haven't kept up with selecting your meals. So, going in every other week and then looking ahead and trying to pick as many meals going forward so that when that week comes around, you're getting something that you're interested in, right? And then with each of these, obviously, you can click on them. You can get more information about the meal. You'll see here calories. You'll see, what it is that's going to go into it. This is where my wife and I oftentimes will look. And let's say we are going camping one week, and we know that particular week's coming up. And so I'll go and look at the utensils and try to figure out, okay, what's going to be needed in order to cook this, and is it going to be effective if we're going to be out camping, or am I going to have to leave these at home and try to jam them in when I get back? So those are some of the things to think about, right? So, but I think the ones that I've tried in the past, they all were very similar to this. Now, here's one thing that I do want to mention, because it's also one of my tips. In just a few minutes, we'll talk about, but the edit delivery. Okay, so you'll see that this is not the delivery that's coming a couple of days, because I can't make any edits to that. Like if I click on that date, it says shipping soon. So all I can do is track it. But for the following week, I can go and say edit delivery. And that's the wording that they use on HelloFresh. But if I do that, you'll see that I can reschedule that delivery to a different day, change the box size, right? If you find that, there's some issues in which the the box that they're using in terms of the size of where it gets, placed. And also, really importantly, down at the bottom, you can skip the week. Okay. Now, realize that's a really, really helpful thing. I think a lot of people kind of get into this going, gosh, I don't know if I could do that every week. Well, if you're on top of it, you can skip certain weeks. You can actually look ahead and skip multiple weeks if, say, I'm going to be out of town on those weeks, or maybe I just don't want a box every week. I'm just going to go and alternate and turn off every other week, so that you're not getting meals that you don't want or meals that you can't use. Right. So I think that's a really, really helpful thing to recognize, is that most of them, they should. Okay. Again, I haven't looked at all of these, but the ones that I've used in the past, you can turn off a week. You can skip a week. You can reschedule a week. And then you, within that week, can make some adjustments. So even though I think we have a plan that we're always getting at least 3 meals a week. As you saw, it allows you to go in and choose 5, I think up to 5 meals each week. If there's a certain week that I know that, I want more meals than normal. All right. So that kind of gives you an idea of how these things work. So let me just kind of quickly scroll through that again. So we said, first thing you're going to do, if you're interested in it, sign up. Okay, go and sign up for a test. Generally, they're going to give you 1 week for free. Okay, most of these will try to entice you to sign up so that they give you your first box for free or highly discounted initially. Then you select your interest. Then you select your meals. Then you choose your delivery schedule. And when the box arrives, you sort through your box, check your ingredients, make sure they sent you the right stuff, okay, which doesn't always happen. There is some issues that we've had in the past. Then you get ready to prepare the meals, make sure that you have all the personal items that are needed, the salt, the pepper, the oil, all of that. And then you prepare, cook, and serve. So that's the basic process. Now, with that, as we say, we have to continue to think about what meals are coming up, right? What's the future weeks, and making sure you're selecting the right ones. Now, if you're someone who doesn't really care so much and you actually want to be surprised, we've done that a few times where we're like, let's just not worry about picking them. Let's just see what they give, because we're willing to try lots of different things. That can also be kind of fun. But I think we've gotten to the point now where we know some of the things we'd like and maybe a few that we haven't liked. So we go in and make sure we try and kind of curate what's coming. All right. So what would be the key distinguishing factors for you making the decision on one of these? Well, first of all, is it right for you? And I'd say, if you're someone who doesn't like to shop, if you're someone who feels like you have a lot of wasted ingredients when you try to cook, and you'd like to try to be a little bit more creative with your cooking, these meals may be for you. Right? There may be something. It's probably not for you if you're someone who likes to be really creative with your cooking. Okay, because realize you're following instructions, right? Even though I enjoy it because it makes me feel like I'm doing some fancy cooking, because it teaches you some strategies for how to cook meals that you may not have tried before. But if you're someone who likes to start a meal and then adjust it as you go along, it may not be the right thing for you, because you may find yourself getting frustrated, like, I hate following instructions. I like to be more creative. But if it is for you, okay, here's some hints for you. Here's some suggestions. One, if you're going to sign up for the service, put your credit card information in and everything, but then immediately go and skip the second week. Right. So when you're looking at selecting your meals, you select your first week that it's going to send you, but go ahead and scroll to the next one and skip that one. And the reason I say that is because one of the things that happens is they'll start shipping you your next box probably before you've finished your first box, or at least they'll lock you into that one. So what happens is they deliver it, let's say on a Tuesday. You may not cook yours until Thursday or Friday or Saturday, but by that point, it's too late to cancel the next week. So even though you got a free week, they're already got you for the second week. So I think one of the suggestions would be, go ahead and turn off maybe your second week, cook the first week, determine if you actually like it or not, whether you want to continue that service. Some of them may have options where they don't charge you, or they'll ask you if you want to carry on. But I think some of them, I know for a fact, will you'll already be in. So you kind of, by the time you determine you don't want to do it anymore, you may have gotten charged for the next week. All right. So there's one suggestion. The other, set yourself some reminders on checking your menus, your upcoming meals. Right. This is something that I've done where, once a week, I think on a Thursday, I have a reminder that pops up on my phone that says, check your meal service. And so I go in just to make sure that I'm up to date on what's coming in. Here's the other thing. You may be like me. I'll jump on and I'll go ahead and pick the meals. At one time, I'll pick them for the next 5 weeks, right? Whatever they'll allow me, just in case I happen to forget or get busy. But I'll give you our current example here. So I'm here on the West Coast, up in the Northwest in Oregon, and we're having a heat wave right now. And 5 weeks ago, I may have chosen some things like soups, right? We actually had some meals come in last week, and my wife looked at me because I tend to choose the meals a lot of times. She looks at me and kind of rolls her eyes because it's going to be 100 degrees outside, and 2 of our 4 meals were soups. And so that was not great timing. I probably, had I gone back in, the week before they sent it to me, and then realized, oh crap, we've got, a heat wave coming, I probably would have made some changes to that. So stay on top of your meal selection. Save your recipes, right? My wife and I have a huge 3-ring binder. Actually multiple now, since we've been doing this for years. And if we like a meal, we really enjoy a meal, we'll go, put holes in it, put it in our 3-ring binder, just in case we want to cook that again in the future. But realize, if you are thinking of this as a way of building your cookbook, do realize some of them are pretty creative in that they give you spice packets. And they'll give you, here's the Mexican spice pack, or here's the Peruvian spice pack. And you actually don't know what's in that. So recreating it may be a little challenging. I think they give you some suggestions as to what what the ingredients might be in that spice pack, but actually coming up with your own may be a little challenging. So a lot of times, if we see that there's some proprietary things, some creative things that are in there, we will just not keep that one. And we've gotten to the point now we only keep things that are really, really good, because we have so many of them, and we're rarely recooking them. We do have some that we've loved and are really easy to cook, and we'll save those maybe for camping or something like that, and go and buy those items on our own. Here's the other thing, right? Use a couple of services at once. Okay, we were doing this for probably a 6-month period where I had Blue Apron and HelloFresh. I had both services going, and I just had to stay on top. It was a little challenging, as I have to go in every few weeks and make sure that I have one turned off for a week and the other one turned on, and I would just alternate them. And that was just so that we get more variety in our meals, and that was actually really good for us. We enjoyed not getting the same things, right? Even though we've kind of dialed in on HelloFresh the things that we like, and we'll see certain meals come up over and over. We wanted to make sure we kept it a little bit more interesting. So I'll probably be doing that again soon, picking another service, getting their free box, but then also maybe alternating so that I have one service delivering one week, one delivering another week, which I think is a great way to kind of keep it fresh. And then take advantage of the free boxes. I didn't mention that before, but most of them, and you may have recognized this as kind of a notification on my app when I pulled it up earlier, but most of these services are going to give you free boxes to give to other people, because they want you to encourage other people to join the service. So oftentimes we'll get little cards. Every box, I think, gives us maybe 2 or 3 cards where you can give them to a friend and says, hey, use this code and get a free box from this service. Of course, they're trying to get them to sign up, and for them to get that box, they do have to sign up. So, we tend not to use those too much, but realize you have them. And so, let's say you have some friends that, you want to give a free box to, or you've got, someone who, just gets married and you want to throw that in your gift with them. I think those are helpful things to have, and but just make sure you encourage them to use the strategies we talked about already, so they don't get stuck paying for something they don't want. All right. So here's some of my takeaways as we kind of wrap this up. So if you enjoy cooking, if you're someone who likes to cook, but you really dislike grocery shopping, um, or you think that you tend to buy too many ingredients in order to be creative in your cooking, this may be a really good service for you. If you're someone who doesn't like cooking at all, there are some of these services for you. I think one of the ones I mentioned earlier, right? What was the name of that one? I think it was Freshly, right? Freshly was one that I think was already prepared. It comes in probably a really good thing for someone who maybe is by themselves, is working all the time, doesn't want to cook. It's a great way to kind of have either frozen meals or fresh meals that are just ready to go. There are some of the meals or some of the services that specifically focus on certain diets. And so be aware of that. There's some that are better for vegetarians. There are some that are, better for people that like to be a little bit more adventurous in their meals. Others that like to be a little bit more standard. I also noticed one of the ones I mentioned earlier, I think it was ButcherBox, right? Where all they're doing is sending you meats or fish. So it's kind of a version of that, but you're not actually getting meals to cook. You're getting the ingredients for the meals. So once you've decided that that's for you, okay, try to make sure it's going to be right for your family, right? If you're someone who likes to be really creative, may not work. If you're someone who has picky eaters, kids or family members that are really picky with what they eat, may not be for you, because you may have to do a lot of trial and error as to whether or not it's meals they like. Do check the price, check the promotions, right? And I'm a big fan of the promotions. So one of the benefits of this time right now is that we have so many of these services and they all are competing. So they're all trying to either undercut each other in terms of price or quality, or just promotions. So, if you're adventurous and don't mind, and you also don't mind staying on top of your credit card and making sure that your services kind of don't, continue on beyond when you want them, go and try several of them out. Try one out for a week, and then turn it off for the next week. Try another one that gives you a free box, and next thing you know, you could have a few different freebies that are coming along. So, last thing I'll mention is I did say that there were some times we've gotten bad boxes. We've had some missing ingredients. We've had some ingredients that weren't very good. That's not been the case for many of the Blue Apron, HelloFresh, even Marley Spoon that we were on at one point. I think most of the time the ingredients are pretty good, but there are some that, especially if you wait to cook, for several days, maybe at the very end of a week, you may have some that may not be as fresh anymore. So I have found that because it's so competitive right now, they're all really good is if you send a complaint, and most of them make it fairly easy to do that. You go in and say, I have a problem with this meal. This ingredient wasn't there, or this ingredient was bad. And most of them, rather than you'd have to deal with a customer service person, will just apply a credit to your account. We actually had to do that last week. We had 3 different ingredients that weren't very good, all within one particular meal. And we made a note of each one of them about why, like an onion that was kind of way too soft, and ginger that looked like it had gone bad. We just let them know that, and then they credit our account for, quite a bit more than what it would have been to just replace those items. So obviously they want to keep you as a customer. It's so competitive right now. They want to make sure that they make it right. Right. So that's good. And that's gotten better, right? Back when it was just Blue Apron around and maybe 1 or 2 others, we would submit a problem like, hey, the delivery didn't arrive, right? It's not here yet. And, we were expecting a meal today. And you'd have to go through customer service. You'd have to do a big kind of a roundabout in order to get there. But now I think they realize it's not worth their time to, deal with those complaints individually and try to nickel and dime you. They're giving you credit for it. So if it's not good, and you may find certain services are just better than others, right? They're just better at giving you fresh stuff, giving you the right stuff. I didn't say earlier, there is some differences across services about how they're delivered. That's one thing that's kind of interesting. Um, HelloFresh, for example, when it shows up as a box, each of my meals are in a different bag, right? So just a brown bag sealed, or with a kind of a sticky sticker sealing it up, and then the meats or fish or whatever it is, the main ingredient, that's usually at the bottom of the box in between kind of two ice blocks, so that they keep that fresh. So this sounds good, and it's nice, assuming that you can count on the service to send you the right stuff. Because you can imagine, right? We take the bags out. Each bag has a label on it. We have a drawer in our refrigerator that we put the bags. We put the meats over there. They're all packaged as well, like a pound of ground beef or something. And then when it's the night for us to cook a particular meal, we grab the bag out, grab the meat, open the bag, and then at that point we're hoping that we have all the ingredients. And again, HelloFresh has been pretty good. We only had a couple of instances where they didn't send us the right thing. Blue Apron for a while got kind of sloppy with things, but then they got a lot better again because of competition. I think they started improving what they were doing. But Blue Apron was different. When Blue Apron showed up, it was all your ingredients were kind of jumbled together, which may sound kind of annoying, right? In that you have to go and sort through all of them, but realize that you recognize early on that the ingredients are right or wrong prior to the night you're trying to cook them. Okay. So there was something good about that, right? It took a little more time as you had to pull it out and go, okay, which meal does this go with? And we would set them up on our counter, all the different meal cards, and go and separate and make sure that everything was there. You can obviously do that with HelloFresh. You can open up the bags, sort through them, right? But I think you find yourself in a rush, maybe just putting them away and then getting the frustration later. So there's a potential difference there. So I think that's all I have. Let me just double check my notes, my takeaways. Maybe I'll just, one final takeaway is just, and I mentioned before, just be somewhat thoughtful and methodical about your planning your meals. For example, if you look ahead and know that you're traveling or you're camping or you're going to be at someone else's house and, visiting them, and you want to take some things with you, maybe that's a week you want to plan certain meals that can feed more, or certain meals that aren't just, made. Maybe it's, a meal for two, but the ingredients can be, then spread out and you can add things to it so that it can be work for others. Or if you're going to have visitors, right? You need to plan ahead. You need to make sure that you're staying on it, because again, you're signing up for a service. Anytime you sign up for a service, they're banking on you kind of forgetting and continuing on with it and just making it a natural part of your life. So set some reminders, go in, double check and say, oh, looks like it's going to be, 1 billion degrees next week or in a week and a half. Let me go ahead and change my meals to make sure that they're easy things to cook. We will often change them, the ones that we can cook outside on like a flat top grill that we have, because I'd rather not turn the oven on, or I'd rather not, cook inside and make it any hotter than it already is. So just be thoughtful, be methodical. Every so often, turn it off, just like any service. I think Alan and I would both tell you with things like streaming services, occasionally it's a good thing to turn them off and just say, you know what, I haven't used this one lately. Let me turn it off for a few months. Everything is so competitive with services right now. You'll be able to get back in, right? It used to be that, if you broke a service, you couldn't rejoin that service for a while, or they would charge you even more to rejoin it because they don't want people being seasonal. That's kind of gone away. And the same thing here, right? If we stop Blue Apron and if we went back to them and said, we'd like to join again, they would openly allow us to do that because it's competitive and they want you to come back. So, and they'll probably even give you some free stuff to come back. So try them out, but be methodical, be thoughtful, and realize these services, they are charging you money. So you want to make sure that you're getting what you want out of them and that it's useful. My wife and I, we are totally bought in because we love trying new things. We love cooking, but we're not a big fan of making decisions on cooking. So if I can just look and say that meal looks good and know that I can cook it because they're going to tell me how, that's pretty exciting for us. So it's been great for us to work with. So So I hope that was helpful. I want to thank you for your time today and for listening to Brother in Tech. Unfortunately, only one brother today, but although it certainly wasn't as fun without Alan here, hopefully you got something out of it, and you can make some good decisions regarding these meal services. So as always, and of course, this is where I have to learn how to do some things here. So if you'd like to reach out to us and give us some feedback about things like meal services that you've tried that you loved, or some that you didn't, that we can pass along as to why, you can send us an email. And that email address is info@themesh.tv. That's info@themesh.tv. We'd also love to hear from you about what future topics you'd like us to discuss. And if you really would prefer Alan not to come back on some of those episodes, you can tell us there as well. Just be polite about it, right? If you'd rather me not be there, then I'd rather you not email that at all. So info@themesh.tv. You can also go to our website, which is www.brothers-in-tech.com. And that's where you can get previous episodes. You can also go to the mesh.tv website and see all of the shows from the Mesh. I know Alan typically doesn't mention that, but there's some great other shows that the Mesh puts out there. So I would highly encourage you to go to their website, mesh.tv, take a look at the things that they have, check out some of their podcasts, and subscribe to those as well. But you can go to our website, where we're slowly but surely starting to develop that and put some of our recommendations in there. But you can certainly be able to contact us through the website, as well as see previous episodes. All right. So thank you all again for listening and for taking your time to either watch or listen today. I hope that it was helpful, and look forward to seeing you, hopefully, with both brothers next time. So thanks, and take care. Bye-bye.